All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Welcome 45, focusing on leadership at Anderson. Leadership at Anderson is a new part of our curriculum, really, that's come on strong the last 3 years, plus or minus, and has a direct impact on you as an MBA student, really looking at where am I as a leader now, where do I want to be, and building a ladder to get where you want to be. And with no further ado, I want to introduce today's guest speaker, who is a really special person. Matt Gorlick is our executive director of leadership at Anderson. He's a personal friend of mine, professional colleague of mine. He's a double Bruin BA from 2004 in communication studies. More importantly, in my opinion, he's FEMBA class of 2013. Um, he was our FEMBA valedictorian. The smartest thing I've ever done in my 20 plus years here is hire Matt. He and I were roommates for a year and a half because we finally we got the budget, we got the green light, we got the job description, but we didn't have an office. So I'm like, I don't care. He's sharing. So for a year and a half, I got to watch him, and I was always thinking, what can I steal from him? Because I was valedictorian never. So I was always trying to steal great work habits from him. Before UCLA, before FEMBA, he spent 8, almost 9 years at Disney, and considered himself a Disney lifer, really. Came to FEMBA to enhance an already great career that he had launched at Disney. During FEMBA, he had a life-changing career pivot, discovered that his heart of heart wanted to build leaders, and he reset the narrative and the direction of his career and jumped on our team in 2012 and 13. Spent 6 years with us in admissions, and sadly, he left us, but he left us 6 years ago to build leadership at Anderson, and he's been building it ever since. He's now the executive director of leadership at Anderson, which benefits all FEMBAs, all executive MBAs, all full-time MBAs. This is a 15-minute thumbnail. You're going to spend a lot more quality time with Matt at Foundations of Inclusive Leadership, the orientation there the last week of August. But today, just wanted to get you started thinking about this very important element of your growth and development. Lastly, fun fact, he also makes movies on the side with his husband, Jason. They have a little side business. So just like everybody at UCLA, there's the main thing, and then there's this interesting side story. So let me change this over to speaker view. And with no further ado, let me introduce Matt Gorlick. Thanks for doing
Hey,
this.
no, thank you so much for inviting me, Dylan. It's good to see all of you. Good to meet all of you. As Dylan said, we'll spend a lot more time together once school officially starts. But wanted to take a few minutes today to walk you through our Leadership at Anderson program. So I'm going to share my screen and have just got a few slides that I want to show you. Nothing too major. Nothing that you need to remember or memorize. You're going to see a lot of this again when we start school in the fall. So if at any point you've got we'll do a Q&A at the end. If there's anything on the screen where you're just super curious or super confused, like feel free to jump off mute and just ask. But like I said, we'll have some time at the end for a Q&A. So at Anderson, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. My screen is not cooperating, actually. There we go. Perfect. So we believe leadership development is intentional, iterative, interactive, and practice-based. These 4 words are really important and words that you're going to hear repeated over and over and over again at Anderson. And we will talk a lot more about what they mean in the fall, but just very, very briefly. So intentional, with your focus, with your intent, with your goals in mind. Iterative, because we don't believe that leadership development happens in a heartbeat. It takes time. It takes effort. Interactive, it involves other people. It involves working with folks. It involves getting feedback from others. And then it's practice-based. You're not just going to read a great book on leadership and automatically embody all that. It takes time, it takes work, it takes practice. And leadership is also not just about formal authority. I want you, as you think about the process of getting back into school and joining an MBA program, I want you to all see yourself as leaders, because you are. It's not just about, do I have the word leader in my title? Do I have a team? Do I have direct reports? It's not just about this. You're a leader in your behavior. You're a leader in the way you talk to others. You're a leader in the way you engage with your colleagues, and lots of opportunity to practice leadership. And again, we'll talk a lot about that when school starts. We have been spending the past many years working on a strategic focus for the school moving forward, building this kind of strategic plan. And we've been speaking a lot with stakeholders really across the industry and across the school. And so folks who are at the school, folks who are alums, folks who hire students, folks who hire alums, the industry. And we put together what we believe is a pretty powerful focus, and that's on building transformative leaders. You may have seen this before in on the website and some of the work that you've done and the research you've done about Anderson. These are the 6 capabilities of a transformative leader that we focus on at Anderson. And the goal is that you are building these 6 capabilities over the course of your time at Anderson. And this acts as a frame. This acts as a structure to help you think about what you want to work on. So where at Anderson can I work on building strong industry acumen? Can I work on becoming more tech savvy, more analytically adept, more innovative, more collaborative, inclusive, more driven and purposeful? We're talking about coursework, so classes that you'll take, whether it's the core curriculum, whether it's electives, talking about co-curricular activities. So for example, Leadership at Anderson, this program that we're talking about today, it could be joining clubs. It could be working with the career services team, doing recruiting, doing case competitions. You could also work on building these skills outside of Anderson as well. So the idea is to really create this holistic environment where you are developing into transformative leaders. And Leadership at Anderson as a program, what we aim to do is to really help you over the course of your Anderson journey and help you put the pieces together curricularly and co-curricularly to help you emerge, during your time at Anderson, after your time at Anderson, as a transformative leader. That's kind of that's our vision with this program. That is why this flywheel, as we call it, these 6 capabilities, is so important. And we're going to talk way more about this when you start school, but I wanted to just put this in your mind so you could start thinking about, what are these areas of opportunity for me to become more effective, more of a transformative leader. Now, when you think about building these skills, there are probably a million approaches, but there's 2 that I want to introduce you to. One is what we call kind of more of the crisis of the moment. And what I mean by this is, I had a meeting with my study team at school last week, and it did not go well. And I really want to work on becoming a more effective leader and dealing with conflict better because of that situation. Or let me flip it around. I have a really scary meeting with my boss next week. And I really want to work on being a more confident leader. I want to work on the skill of confidence so that when I go into this meeting in a week, I can embody who I want to embody, what I want to embody as a leader. These are good. These are great ways to develop skills. This is a great focus, really honing in on the thing. Bit more short term, but perfectly fine. There's also, though, this broader approach, this deeper approach, this longer term approach that is not necessarily tied to, a crisis, as I'm calling it. And so one of the things that we want you thinking about as you're beginning business school, as you're going through business school, really after business school too, is to not just hone in on number 1. Number 1 is easier because it's in your face. Like, oh, this thing happened. I want to deal with it. I got to deal with it. I got to improve on this. I'm going to focus on this. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. However, we don't want you forgetting about number 2 here, because number 2 is these are the things that you wrote in your admissions essay. These are the things that you're going to build in your leadership plan when you start school. These are the things that you have earmarked as goals for your life, for your longer term leadership development, your longer term career development. So for example, I want to emerge out of business school as someone that is really good at conveying a vision. Let's just say that's what you want to focus on. One of the things you want to focus on. That's really on this slide. That's really number 2. Now, there may certainly will be opportunities for you to practice this that are more localized, that are more kind of short-term, dealing with the situation in the moment. But number 2 is really about keeping the focus on these bigger picture things. And so again, we're going to talk a lot more about this, but I introduced this to you because I want you really thinking about both of these, not just what's in front of you, not just what's the crisis of the moment, but what you want to work on as a leader, as a human, long term. And we're going to have you focus on both during the course of your time at Anderson and during the course of leadership at Anderson. So what I want to do, Dylan, if you don't mind pausing for a second. So the way you're going to build your leadership at Anderson is through what's on this slide. And there's a lot of words, but I'll read it to you slowly. So iterative, interactive, real-world practice, there's those words again, combined with goal-directed coaching conversations will be the primary vehicle through which you develop and refine your leadership skills at Anderson. Now, you may be thinking, what are coaching conversations? Coaching conversations are a different type of conversation, probably than what you're used to. And coaching conversations create a unique space. I'm going to give you some typical characteristics of them. They tend to be non-judgmental. So in this conversation, no one is there to judge. That's a really hard thing to do. But coaching is really about a non-judgmental space. It is an equal partnership. Whoever you're involved with a coaching conversation, it's an equal partnership. There's no assumption of hierarchy. And as a result of that, you are the expert in your life and situation, just like the other person's the expert in their life and situation. There's no assumption that I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you what to do. Coaching conversations are goal-oriented. They generate ideas. They're rooted in inquiry. They're rooted in listening. And they can help bring chaos to order. They can help uncover assumptions, uncover kind of what's not being said, what's underneath the surface. And they're forward-looking. We're really focused on action. We're focused on what's next. And we're rooting it in what's working, the positive, what's working well. Now, coaching conversations are distinct from these type of conversations that you're more used to. So mentorship, I'm going to share with you my experience. I'm going to tell you, well, when I was in your shoes, here's what I did. Or advising, the word is in the name. I'm going to give you advice. Here's what I think you should do. Consulting, you brought a problem to me. I did some research. Here's what I recommend. Therapy, totally different situation, totally different conversation. Way more of an assumption of expertise, more clinical, more diagnostic. And then friendship, we just put this in here because sometimes there's some confusion. Friendship is a totally different type of conversation. It's not necessarily non-judgmental. It's not necessarily rooted in inquiry. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of maybe blending of some of these other types of conversations. I want to be very clear here. There's nothing wrong with mentorship, advising, consulting, therapy, and friendship. In fact, I think they're great. They're really important. Coaching conversations are different. Remember the descriptions from the previous slide. Coaching conversations create a distinct space in which no one's giving advice, no one's judging, no one's telling you what to do. It's a special space that's rooted in really uncovering assumptions, listening, asking questions, coming up with action items and goals. You probably heard a lot about coaching, executive coaching. Maybe you don't know a ton about it, but you probably have heard the words. They're out there. They're being mentioned all the time. There's a lot of articles these days about kind of leaders acting as coaches, the power of coaching conversations. And we want to give you the opportunity to take advantage of this while you are at Anderson. Now, anyone can have a coaching conversation. So if you go, search one of those articles, leader as coach, for example, all of you can build the toolkit, the skill of having coaching conversations. What we're going to offer you is formal leadership at Anderson coaching with coaches. So these are coaches who do this for a living. This is their job to have these coaching conversations. So a big part of leadership at Anderson is monthly coaching with a coach to help you uncover assumptions, to help you set goals, to help you with accountability, to help you develop these skills. Now, remember, coaching is different than mentorship, different than advising, different than consulting. So these conversations, which we're going to talk so much more about in a few months, are not about the coach saying, so you want to work on being more confident, here's what you should do. That's not coaching. Coaching is, again, a lot about inquiry, a lot about uncovering these things. And so I want to challenge you over these next few months to think about what a conversation could possibly look like with a coach that's designed to help you improve on your confidence, where the coach is not telling you, here's what you should do. It's a fascinating experience. It's something that we believe really sets us apart, that we offer this to you. And we're going to talk way more about the logistics, the nuts and bolts, but the coaching is a big part of leadership development. And one of the things we hope happens as a side effect of all this is we hope that you'll make coaching conversations part of your mindset, part of your toolkit. So you're going to have the opportunity to receive all this coaching as an Anderson student. And we hope that that gives you some insight into how to have coaching conversations in your future. Now, I don't mean that you're all of a sudden going to become coaches. I don't mean that you're all of a sudden going to now put on LinkedIn that you're a coach and you're going to start charging people for coaching. That's not what I'm talking about. But rather, I'm talking about you having the skill of having coaching conversations. Remember, coaching conversations are a type of conversation. Coaching, formal coaching, is a very specific type of coaching conversation that you're all going to have access to as students at Anderson. Again, we're going to talk so much more about this when school starts, but I wanted to introduce you to this idea of skill development, of coaching, and of leadership at Anderson. So with that, I'm going to pause. I'm going to unshare my screen and really give you the opportunity to ask me any questions that you may have about coaching, about the program, about any of this. I know I've given you a lot of information. Maybe you're still processing, but anything coming to mind? Any questions, any thoughts?
I just wanted to clarify. So this is a new program for kind of like monthly, like kind of like a monthly one-on-one, when it
Yeah.
helps us develop having these coaching conversations.
Yeah, so we've had this program now for a few years, but we made a big change in this past year, broadening the opportunity for students to have this. So yes, the structure is once a month coaching, and it's coaching around the leadership skills that you want to build. So the reason I talked about at the very beginning, those two types of skill development, is for you to think about, what are these skills that I want to build? And those are what you're going to bring to your coaching conversations. And that's going to help you kind of make progress, find ways to build these skills, and actually become more of that transformative leader I talked about earlier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So is this something that we have to enroll in, or is it something that's available to us, to a resource that we can utilize?
As with everything in the world, everything is subject to change, but our goal is that this is available to all of you from the moment you started school.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
And Irene, if I could, and this is for everyone who interacts with Matt, I should have asked this earlier, but if you don't mind, just real quick, your name and your company and your city, just fun for, let people, because we're always introducing ourselves in an MBA environment, and you never know.
Yeah.
Like, that was the day I met Irene.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi everyone. Again, so my name is Irene Lee. I'm currently located in San Diego, planning to commute to Anderson this upcoming fall. Still trying to debate between, the hybrid or the, every Saturday second schedule. So once I get that figured out, I'll see you whenever your schedule permits. And I'm currently a project manager at a pharmaceutical company. So I manage clinical trials and assay testing and all that good stuff, mostly for oncology clinical trials. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you this upcoming fall. And I already saw some of you this week, and it's been a pleasure meeting a lot of you.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Matt. My name is Evelyn. Thanks for the presentation. Evelyn Tokuyama. I'm in Los Angeles. I work at UCLA Health. I do communications on the media relations team, aka the PR team. And my question is, so with the monthly sessions that we get, will we be assigned to one coach and then we work with the same one throughout our time at Anderson, or does it change?
Yeah. So first of all, very nice to meet you, Evelyn. And great question. We get this question a lot. So we assign you a coach. Generally we assign randomly. We found that really helps kind of deal with the temptation to have this turn into mentorship and advising. Sometimes students will say, well, I want to work with someone who worked at Disney because I'm trying to get a job at Disney. And which is a natural thing to say, but then it sometimes turns into you asking the coach, well, so what should I do? And the coach is going to turn it right back to you and say, doesn't matter. Let's talk about you. So because of that, we assign randomly. And the goal is that this is someone that you forge a relationship with during the 3 years that you're here. Coach fit is crucial. And so what I mean by that is sometimes I'm just not resonating with you. I'm just not connecting with you. We're just not, it's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's not there's anything wrong with me. It's just we're not fitting. And so when that happens, we of course will switch coaches. But the goal is that you work with the same person for the entire time that you're at Anderson, so you can really track your progress and build on this really important relationship.
And then once students have graduated, have you had, I know you said it's a relatively newer program, but do students keep in touch with the coaches and do some of the sessions continue, or you're not sure?
I'm not really sure. So you'll have access to alumni career services. Way too early to be thinking about this, but you'll have access to alumni career services when you graduate. And part of that gives you some coaching each year. It's not necessarily designed to be a long-term relationship, but sometimes coaching kind of comes and goes. And so I imagine a lot of you, as you transcend to higher levels of leadership, will work with a coach. Maybe even your company will pay for it. But what happens kind of after graduation is really is kind of the student's prerogative, and we don't get involved in that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Matt, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Anne. I am a solutions engineer at Salesforce, currently based out of LA and Culver City.
Nice.
And I had a quick question around who are these coaches? Are they faculty? Are they current executives? Are they current students?
Excellent question. So my answer is going to sound really snarky, but I don't mean it to sound snarky. They're coaches. Like that's what they do. And so there are a handful of staff at Anderson, I am one of them, who are certified as coaches. So we all went through training. There's an organization called the International Coaching Federation, ICF, that essentially credentials coaches. The majority of our coaches, I believe all the internal coaches and the vast majority of the external coaches are ICF certified. And so this is not someone who's kind of paired up to be your mentor. These are folks who actually do this for a living. And so they are coaches. Some of them wear multiple hats. So like me, the coaching that I do in this program is a small piece of my overall job responsibilities. But there are some coaches we have where their job is to coach and they just run their own coaching business. So these are all folks who have been trained in coaching and who it's taken very seriously. They're held to very high standards. And we take that very seriously as well. Very good question, Anne. Thanks for asking. Any other questions?
Hey Matt, I have one question.
Yeah.
I'm Chill. I'm in LA, based in Pasadena, and I work at Capital Group, which is a financial services company.
Nice.
And I'm a product manager over there. And this is very exciting. I'm very used to mentorship discussions. I am not at all used to coaching, especially the way you described. So to help me understand a little better as to like what mindset should I go in, you did a great job, but I just need a little more help. If I think of, I usually think of outcomes, right? So what kind of outcomes should I think of? Let's say I say that as a part of being a leader, I want to get better at presenting a product roadmap in front of 50 stakeholders, right? What kind of outcome should I expect coming out of sessions like this?
Yeah, excellent question. And really, it's your job to define the outcome. Now, you can define it with your coach, but ultimately it's your job. Now, a couple things to say about your question, because I think it's a really important one. One of the questions that I like to ask at the beginning of a coaching session. So, we have an hour today, or 50 minutes, whatever it might be. I may ask you, what do you want to be different for you at the end of our conversation? So you've already told me, because you've submitted this a day in advance, you've already told me what you want to work on. So, I want to work on the skill of presenting confidently to a large group of stakeholders. Great. So in the 50 minutes we have today, what do you want to be different for you when we're done? And that question, by the way, when I was working with a coach for many, many, many years, I always found that to be such a powerful and very difficult question because you're kind of thinking, what do I want to be? But that's your job is to think about, well, what does the outcome for today look like? And that's why we specifically use the word iterative, because you could say, I want to be fully confident presenting to the board next week. And then I may say, okay, what does that really look like in 50 minutes? And then you may realize, okay, actually what I want to do is I want to have a little bit more clarity about things I can practice between now and that meeting. And that's way more iterative. It's like, I want to run a marathon. So I'm going to go run once, and then I'm going to be ready to run 26 miles. Maybe someone out there could do that. I can't. And so what does 1% look like? What does 2% look like? The other thing is, when you bring up the mentorship piece, I actually just sent an email to all the students about this exact topic. I got a couple questions. They all tend to come in at the same time. It's very strange. But I got a couple questions all at the same time saying, Matt, I really want to think about what questions I should be asking my coach because I want to get the most out of the session. And the questions you should be asking your coach are no questions at all, because it's not your job to ask the questions. It's the coach's. Because remember, this isn't mentorship. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to keep your mouth shut the whole time. That's not what I mean. But this is not about getting something from them. This is about, you are the resource. You are the expert. They're going to help you unpack and uncover all this yourself. So you don't need to have a list of questions. Now, when you go to a mentor session, if you do some informational interviewing, you do some networking, which Pam is going to probably talk to you a lot about next week, that's a different story. I would probably have some questions that you want to ask this person so you're not sitting in complete awkward silence. That's different than coaching. In fact, in coaching, silence, as uncomfortable as it may make you, is quite important. So does that help at all? Kind of give you some insight into what these sessions might be like?
Yeah, thank you. And that definitely helps. I think it's us doing a lot of homework and self-exploring as to what we want before going in is more important than just showing up like in a mentorship, like, hey, what should I do better, and feedback.
100%. And one of the reasons why I listed those two ways of developing skills is because it's very easy to get into the mentality of crisis of the moment. And what happens when there's no crisis, you're kind of left with, well, there's nothing really to work on, which I got news for you. That's not true. There's always stuff for us to work on. It may just not be something in your face. It may be something that you wrote about in your admission essay. It may be something you write in your leadership plan. It may be something that you've always thought about, but it's just not salient to you right now. So that's really why we want to double down on these bigger picture skills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, I only asked for you until 12:35, so you've already donated 1 extra minute. You want to take one more question or?
Yeah, and I'll also put my email in the chat. If anyone's got any questions, you want to reach out, you want to, happy to talk to anybody about any of this.
All right, last question from our audience.
Final question. Hi, Matt. I'm Riley Gladich. I'm located in Irvine. I work at Mechanics Bank as a relationship manager. I do construction lending, commercial real estate lending, that sort of thing. My question for you, it's more personal and less logistics of the program, but what have been the most valuable tools you've come away with from your own experience with coaching, and how have you been able to apply that to your own life?
Yeah, we will talk so much more about this in a couple of months, but it's the ability and kind of the mentality of curiosity. And you're going to hear me give this example probably 100 times, so forget this after I say it, or just don't be mad at me if you hear it more than once. If you're working with someone on your team and they're late to every meeting, and you want to have a conversation with them, we tend to approach it through the lens of, I know everything I need to know. They're late to every meeting. They need to stop this. I'm going to tell them, and then they'll stop it. That's very kind of command and control. It's very authoritative. And by the way, I'm not saying that that's always bad, but in a lot of cases, coaching conversations could be really helpful. And coaching conversations rely on that element of curiosity, inquiry, openness. Like, I have something to learn. Like, I may not know what's going on. I want to invite you to the solution because you are the expert in your life and what's going on. And so just having that awareness has helped me approach difficult conversations. And it's helped me think about, well, what's best here? I need to have a really serious conversation. Is a coaching conversation appropriate? Because it may not always be appropriate. In this case, example A, yeah, you know what? I want to go in really just with curiosity and inquiry and just see where the conversation goes. Or I may say, in this conversation, I need to be a little bit more authoritative because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But having been coached all these years, it's given me the ability to see what a coaching conversation can open up. Again, not always appropriate, but way more appropriate than we probably think, and way more available than we think. I think we just tend to not even consider this as an option. And especially at Anderson, when you're working with your learning teams, and these are flat teams where there's no hierarchy and no one's in charge, and you're not the boss, and they're not the boss, coaching conversations can be really helpful. So great question. I look forward to having way more detailed discussions with you about this in the next few months.
Fantastic. Well, Irene, Evelyn, Ann, Ashil, Riley, thanks for bringing questions forth as a presenter. It's always helpful to hear what opens up for people. Matt, just God bless you. You're doing solid work. What I put in the little advertising for this was, sometimes our teams sing and sometimes our teams stink. And if you've ever been on a stinker of a team, it's tough. And Matt's work is really upping the level across the board. FEMBA, Executive MBA, Daytime MBA. And it's exciting watching Matt the last 6 years take this seed of a vision and create something that's impacting the actual growth and development of all of our MBA students, and the work that he's had to do to consistently champion for the resources, get the skills across the board for the coaches, and really map, block and tackle and map this out. So Matt, your commitment is that the growth and development outside the classroom is just as powerful as the growth and development in the classroom. And, I heard you say that 6 years ago, and I've been watching it, and it's happening. And when I do the drive time interviews, I just hear people, and we haven't even put this on our website yet. We only put it on our website like a month ago. So for you all who are new admits this year, the spirit of these welcome 45s is kind of like, and I drive a Toyota, so I've never, but I assume someday I'm going to buy a Lexus, maybe. And I think it'll be probably cool to look at the manual and go, look at all this cool stuff my car will do that I didn't even know it would do. So that's the spirit. You all have been admitted to UCLA. That is such an accomplishment. And you think you know what FEMBA is, or the full-time or the executive, whatever program people are in. And that's great. Lexus, yeah, it's fancy. Everybody knows a Lexus is a good car. But my observation of Anderson is that this is a build your own adventure environment. And the more you do this, carve out 35 minutes at lunch and come hear about some other little hidden benefit, the more you really get hungry and look through the manual. What else can Anderson do for me? The more you bring in curiosity there, that was a great question, Riley. Stump the professor. I like that. The more you can bring curiosity to your MBA, it's not like a spray tan. I'm not just going to stand there. Okay, make me a leader, right? It doesn't work like that. This is so iterative, and you have so much say in meet expectations and having it become exceed expectations. And that the X factor is you. So, Matt and company are gonna curiously engage and ask you, well, what would it look like if you were on teams that were singing instead of stinking? And how can you be the change agent for that?
And you're going to meet a lot of great people at Anderson. And, I owe a debt of gratitude to my colleagues who have helped this program get built up over the years. You'll meet our faculty advisor, Associate Dean Heather Caruso. She's a professor. She's also the dean of EDI at Anderson, and she's phenomenal. And so there's just so many resources here at this school for you. And you don't need to jump in and do everything all at once, but there's so much to take advantage of over your 3 years here. And we're here to help. We're here to help you with that. So thanks for having me, Dylan.
Oh my God. Thanks for launching us so powerfully. If you enjoyed this, Friday, we'll have Paulo de Resende, who is the faculty director for the Global Access Program. And then next week, Thursday, we have Lucy Allard, who's the executive director of the Center for Global Management. And then next Friday, we have Pam Schultz, who is the executive director for all of our career services. So my intention to invite Matt, Paulo, Lucy, and Pam, these are 4 elements. Other schools have some of this, but our faculty observe that we are pace setters in all 4 of these areas of leadership development, of global practicum, a capstone that really pulls together the entire learning, our global trips and global educational opportunities through CGM, and then full access to career service support all the way through. So thank you for bringing your curiosity. Thanks for bringing your questions. Matt, thank you for these extra 9 minutes. I'm going to pause, and we'll set up the breakout rooms. No more